Welcome everyone to It Starts With Mom Live. My name is Stacy Stewart. I'm President and CEO of March of Dimes. And we are so thrilled that you've joined us today. We're also so thrilled that we're being joined by Jessica Alba and the Honest Company for our inaugural virtual conference. We know how challenging these last few months have been for everyone, but especially for pregnant women and for new moms and those women with new babies and toddlers. There's a lot of uncertainty around COVID-19 and its effects on expectant moms and babies. And as we face this public health crisis together, it's more important than ever that we come together to support moms and babies and families. And that's why we're here today. Our virtual conference will be split into 3 parts, speaking to 3 main themes: support, education, and inspire. Each session will feature various panelists who will discuss pressing topics that we're all dealing with. And they'll give you an opportunity to ask questions to these everyday moms and experts. Today is about connecting with other expecting, new, and seasoned moms from the comfort of your own home. We want you to feel empowered to navigate through conception efforts and get through your pregnancy healthy and strong. We also want you to know that you're not alone. March of Dimes is here to support you at every stage of pregnancy, just as we've been for the past 80 years. Advancing important research, affecting policy change, and providing care and support programs for families. March of Dimes is here as a resource for you and to encourage you to have the best possible start for yourself and for your baby. It's why we've launched our It Starts With Mom campaign, just in time for Mother's Day, to celebrate all moms and all the moms to be, and to provide information and guidance through all parts of the motherhood journey at itstartswithmom.org. So thanks again for joining us for this first ever It Starts With Mom Live. And on behalf of the March of Dimes, happy Mother's Day. We wish you all the best, and we're so glad you've joined us for this great day.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the first It Starts With Mom campaign live. We at The Honest Company have always been huge supporters of anything that could help moms and children. And so we are so thrilled to partner with March of Dimes for this incredible event. We're going to have 3 different sessions, and we're going to have so many special guests. A lot of them are friends of mine, and I just really look forward to today. To start off with the first session, we are going to have a friend of mine, Christene Barberich. She is an entrepreneur. She is a mom. She is a boss lady, all the things. She's also my personal fashion icon. And she is going to talk to us now about her journey as a mama. So let's get ready with It Starts With Mom campaign now. And Christene will be joining.
I think having a support system of people who have been through what you're going through is so incredibly important. When you have family and friends who are there to support you and they mean well and they're so wonderful, but they don't get it. They don't know what these little terms are. They don't know what the alarms mean, and they look at your babies like they're fragile. But Rebecca or someone from March of Dimes, they look at your baby and they know what they can do. They know how strong they are. They've seen it happen in their own lives or over and over again in their day-to-day job. And so having that person who just gets it and just knows what you're going through, it was always just so comforting to have that person who you know is just there with you. And no matter what, they're just there, they understand, and they're there to help.
Hi, everyone. Christene.
Hi, Jessica.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here today.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a historical event. Mamas in the United States are in a pretty compromised situation in that of all the developed nations, moms here really, the odds are against them when it comes to giving birth, and we need to change that. So by joining with March of Dimes and us doing this type of event, we are just raising awareness around how important it is that moms get the right information and healthcare that they need so that they can have healthy pregnancies and babies can thrive. So that is really what today is all about. And I'm honored that you have joined us. I knew you before you were a mom. And now you are a mom. You have a 19-month-old.
Yes, she's almost 20 months. Yeah.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy. I was thinking the last time I saw you, it was before we both had your newest baby and my daughter. So yeah, our lives are completely different right now.
It is literally everything gets sort of turned upside down and jumbled. And I think just for the first question here, as women, we're conditioned to think that the road to motherhood or parenting is sort of just paved and you're just going to kind of fall right into it, especially if you are a career woman and you have done things in the workplace, or you've had, success elsewhere. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this motherhood thing. What has been unexpected for you on your journey?
I think it's just really important that we're talking now, because I think that a lot of people who experience challenges with parenting, it just becomes so exponentially more full of pressure, especially during a time like now during the pandemic. It's like anything that was hard before is like 10 times harder now. And so I think it's really kind of putting a focus on how we feel about ourselves as parents and our own flaws. And I think that, it's something that I'm working on with myself and really trying to be kinder to myself. But honestly, I was not prepared for so much that comes along with parenting. Everyone's experience is different. Everyone's dealing with different circumstances. But I don't know about you, but I mean, I felt like I was shot out of a cannon, and it was just like, I was so disoriented. And I also had my daughter early, and she ended up being in the NICU for 4 weeks, which, I'm sure a lot of parents can relate to and not a lot of people talk about. And just, the emotional sort of experience of just going back and forth to the NICU every single day and, pumping. And, I think that we don't really give, all parents have their own, sort of challenges and things that they really thrive at. But I think from new mothers, it's really kind of not underscored enough how hard it is to adapt to this new life. And we don't really give ourselves that much of a break to kind of set a lot of the other responsibilities aside. It's like we're still trying to make meals. We're still trying to make sure the house isn't like a complete wreck. We're still trying to take care of other, siblings. And it's like, and be a good friend.
I think the thing that I certainly have struggled with in having my first kid to my second and my third, and I think this goes for anyone, whether you have one kid or multiples, finding time for you so that you can be okay, whatever that means to you, is just something that no one ever told me I needed to do. And no one ever discussed really like how hard that first year is in the adjustment from 0 to 1 kid, and then adding on multiples after that. But I think, that is one thing that I certainly didn't expect. And I really appreciate all of the writing that you have done and the just being out in front of certain things as it relates to motherhood and parenting that a lot of people, just like you said, they just don't talk about. And I think right now more than ever, it's almost dire that we talk about it. We have to do this for other moms so that they can know how to best take care of themselves.
Yeah, and I think, you're someone I'm grateful to. You have an enormous platform, both personally and with, the Honest Company. And I just think the more the more people are honest and authentic about what their real life is like and how hard it is, like I said, regardless of circumstances, I think it just helps all of us feel a little bit more okay with, what we're dealing with, no matter what that is and how hard it is. There's also so much generational stuff that comes into becoming a mother, what it was like when we were mothered, the experiences that our mothers and our grandmothers went through that I've been really, spending a lot of time thinking about lately. And I just think it's really important that people like you, and I'm just grateful to you, and also people like, Drew Barrymore and Gabrielle Union, that have these enormous platforms and are really talking about, what it's been like for them to make this transition and to find their own way in being a parent. I think that we sometimes think like we have to sort of be like our friends that are doing it right, or our sisters or our moms. And I feel like it's so important to really identify what makes sense for you and your family and what feels good, and stop feeling so guilty if you do have to take some time for yourself, because it's very easy to lose yourself in this process. And I think that can lead to a lot of sort of mental health issues and some depression and detachment. And I just try to be really honest with myself about that. We just launched a program called No Bad Moms in advance to Mother's Day, and it really talks about a lot of this stuff. But
that's so cool. Oh, thank you. Maybe tell everyone about your business.
About Refinery 29?
Yeah.
Well, it's a part of the larger Vice Media Group now, and it's really a place where we really try to identify these gaps in areas of women's lives that we feel aren't being represented. And, we've covered so much around body image, around, what the Asian American experience is like now, about,
women in the workplace.
Yes, women in the workplace, fertility, skincare for women of color. It's like, always trying to explore new areas of the subject matter that we cover to make sure that, we really feel like we're accurately representing our audience and really being able to provide service there, and conversations and community, because that's really, really important with all of the stuff that we talk about and cover.
Yeah. And I have to say, just in my experience, I didn't know anybody who had kids when I first got pregnant. And I found my tribe of women, and it's grown over time. But the way that I even cared and took the way that I took care of myself and my own health was really through the advice of my friends. And so the questions I would ask my doctor, the certain things that I would get in front of before I hit a milestone or a stage, or even when it came to, oh my goodness, all these tests. I've never had so many tests in my life. I've actually never seen a doctor more in my life than during this time. And I know I'm one of the more fortunate ones that has access to healthcare in this way. But even just knowing how to navigate that process was really through the friends that I made along the way. And so thank you so much for creating that community and having that conversation, because that in itself could actually save many lives.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I think it's also the small things that we do in those communities. I do remember after I had Rafi, my daughter, and this is something I never, ever knew, and I thought about, all the times I could have done this for my friends who had just had children. And my friend Louisa Stas, just showed up one night with a jar of homemade bolognese sauce and pasta to make and jam and fresh bread for the next morning, because she knew I was just struggling just to, stay afloat. And I just remember bringing that bag up from our foyer downstairs. She had dropped it off. And, how you feel after you've had a baby and everything that we were going through. And I brought it upstairs, and my husband just looked at me and he was like, can we make that tonight? Can we actually make dinner for ourselves tonight? And it was just such a gift of love. And it's not sometimes about the things that we buy people. It's just the way that we try to show up in these small, thoughtful ways that make them feel human and make you feel really deeply loved, that I'm still moved by it, even thinking about that memory.
Oh, yeah. Nourishment, postpartum nourishment is huge. And also checking in with your body and looking or understanding that it's okay for you to talk about how you feel. I think a lot of people feel like they need to tough it out, or maybe they don't need to bring up if they're feeling a little achy or feverish or dizzy, and they feel like, oh, they'll just be shut down. And so they're afraid to always speak up about how they may be feeling postpartum, or even while they're in labor. And while there are a range of feelings, it's important to know that you're allowed to talk about it, and you don't need to be ashamed. And in fact, it could save your life if you do talk about certain things, because there are certain signs that certain things could be happening. And if you don't talk about them, there's no way for anyone to know. And so if we can release the guilt that you need to be strong or tough or perfect in any way during your pregnancy or postpartum, I hope that what you get from this is that nobody's perfect. We all need help. The little things matter. And give yourself the freedom to not be 100 on top of things all the time.
I mean, honestly, I just wish that I'd heard that 19 months ago. It would have helped me so much, because I think there's just so much emphasis and, in these tabloids and talking about post-baby bodies and just like the physical aspect of it. And it's like, there's so much more that goes into that recovery and rebuilding yourself. And also your life is completely different. Things shouldn't.
Hormonally. Yeah. Yeah. Hormonally, emotionally, I didn't feel like I was even reconnected to myself for a solid year after each baby. My hormones were all over the place. And I was like, I would look in the mirror and I would be like, who is this person? Not only is my body all out of whack, but just emotionally, I felt different. And it's like you step into this new skin, this new soul, this new brain, and it takes time to adjust, and I didn't realize kind of how intense that experience would be for myself. And like you said, if you don't hear that it's okay for it not to be all buttoned up and perfect and like it's portrayed in media, people feel like they need to put up a front, but you really don't need to put up a front. And I think it is important to know that if anything, this is when you get to release yourself from any idea of who you should be and just be authentically in the moment.
I could not agree more. And I also feel like there's so much power available to you when you actually acknowledge and lean into the things and allow yourself to really hear what it is you need and how you're feeling. And like you said, those moments looking into the mirror and just not recognizing yourself, like that's okay. It is okay. And it's okay to give yourself time to find, and navigate your way through life again. And also, relationships can be different afterwards. It's just, I think that it's really, really important that the more you give yourself space and support and encouragement to move through that time, it's like you can come out on the other side really feeling so empowered and so kind of nurtured yourself. And I think if we can encourage that in each other and not be so much about kind of judging ourselves, judging others about where we think people should be and what they should be doing, I think
or what their or what their experience should be like. So in this time, we are definitely in a very bizarre and intense moment globally in the world. And people more than ever, I think, have questioned everything in their life. But at the same time, I felt like I have had a lot of time to reflect. What for you have you seen? What is the light in your life? What is the glimmer of light and hope? And what is the spark, that Rafi and being a mom, that you've experienced during this time?
Well, I think first of all is like there's such compassion and just care about how people are doing elsewhere. I think being in the absence of other people really makes you think and wonder and consider, the different kinds of circumstances they're living through. And I think it has amplified compassion, and we've seen that all over the world. And it's something that, I felt is really important to share with Rafi. And, in this time of having such concentrated one-on-one quality time with your children or your family, whatever that looks like, I think just also not seeing this as a drawback. And it's like finding this time to be a benefit. It's not like you have to learn a new skill and, pile on some other responsibility. It's like everyone's like, I'm going to learn a new language, while I'm, sheltering at home. And it's like, maybe that's a little bit too ambitious. But I think even just trying a new exercise or activity with your child that really is fun and enjoyable for both of you. It's small little things that make each day its own little revelation, because I think we're all kind of experiencing this Groundhog Day kind of vibe. And I think we have to kind of pull ourselves out of that and try and find these little miracles that are available to us. In our even though our worlds feel like they've gotten smaller, they're actually, getting bigger.
Expanding. Yeah. I felt like with Hayes, my littlest one, he has memorized books that
Wow.
I didn't realize that like a 2-year-old should, not word for word, but he knows what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
He also, I thought he really liked my singing at night. Like I thought it was a special moment. He shushes me. He actually put his finger over my mouth and he goes, shh, no, mommy.
No.
Like, okay, so I thought you loved my singing, and I had no idea you basically memorized every one of these books. And every time I try to throw a new book at him, he's not having it. He actually goes and finds the book that he has memorized. And so that has been fun, just to watch his growth and these like little sweet little moments that I feel like when I'm in the hustle and bustle and I'm, working at Honest and doing the show, I don't always get to, really lean in and dive into these tender moments as much. So I've appreciated that.
Yeah, they're favorites. That's actually something I'm really like appreciating now too, is knowing like all of her go-to books, the toys that she likes to play with, the one Chris O'Dowd, the actor, does this live story time on SAG. I guess the SAG site actually has like live storytelling, and he tells the story of Arnie the Donut, and myself, my husband, and Rafi like all know all the words by heart.
So cute.
I know, it's funny, but it's like, it's something that I think that we'll all remember, and really sort of try and like look back at this time as being, a chance to just deepen our connection to each other, as much as we can.
Totally. Well, on that note, thank you so much, everyone. I think during this time, it is important, like Christene said, is really look at this as a precious moment in our life where we can deepen our connections with those that we love and those little ones that we're surrounded with. So thank you so much. I love that advice. And I love the way you're a beautiful speaker. Christene has podcast. You do everything, but go to Refinery 29, check it out, see all of the incredible content and community that she has really spearheaded over there.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. It
started
with Mom. This is our first session, and I'm so honored that you joined us for it.
I'm honored too. It's so good to see you. Thank you. I'm glad you and your family are safe. And thank you to the March of Dimes and everyone that's involved in all of this. I think it's really, really incredible and so necessary.
Mwah. Big kiss.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, everyone. This is Jessica Alba. Welcome back to It Starts with Mom Live. Our next panel is going to be Moms at Work. And we have a very special guest, Editor-in-Chief of Parents Magazine, Julia Edelstein. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Nice to see you too. Oh, I love the red color. So cute.
Oh, thanks. I tried.
So, Julia, you have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old?
2 boys who are crazy and who I'm hoping don't run in here any second, but I've tried to protect the area.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 2 boys, and so I've been working. Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure it's bound to happen to some point today, but I have 2 little boys, yeah, and I've been working this since the situation started. So I'm starting to develop some expertise in the situation, I would say.
And so not only are you the highest ranking chief executive at Parents Magazine, but you also are in a situation that's a bit unusual, as your husband is a physician and is away from you. You guys he's in New York and you guys are living apart, which makes this time, I think, and you can better explain, just feel more intense, as you don't have that your right and your left, you don't have your other person to help you navigate through this time with the kiddos.
Yeah, it has been, so actually we had good news yesterday, which was that my husband is able to join us for a week. It's been 7 weeks since we've seen him, and we didn't know it was going to happen, but he came yesterday. You can see in my Instagram stories the little reunion my kids had with him. He works at one of New York City's largest hospitals, and he's a psychiatrist, so he's dealing with he treats medically ill patients. So he's been rounding on patients with COVID who are having, all the mental health issues that you can imagine. So he was able to get some time off work. He was tested for COVID, then he self-isolated, and he came unexpected separation. We lived in a little apartment in Manhattan. I shouldn't say that little, but it was small to be there forever, and the germ wasn't the safest. So we decided that it would be safer to separate, and didn't realize when we did how long it has been. It was really an adjustment, and it was hard watching the kids. They really weren't used to that husband, and I don't travel much for work, so they're really having 2 parents home. And
The connection's a little bit.
And last night, because he was here, it was the first night I slept through the night in a long time. So yeah.
So not to mention, all of that's very intense, and I can't even imagine, as much as my husband and I have been at each other's throats lately. I don't know what I would be doing without him, because when you have just having that other person to relieve you of any of the day-to-day just helps. So I'm glad that you guys have each other and are sleeping together. And
we've set up our own. Oh, sorry. You know what? I can't hear. I'm sorry. I missed the last thing you said.
I was just saying that I'm happy that you guys get to be together this week.
No, I'm sorry. The connection, as is so often the case, is slightly tenuous. But it's made a big difference. reacclimated to our new routine because it is so different. I mean, all the routines from our old life have gone out the window, and he kind of missed the last 7 weeks of the distance learning and how do we get in the morning and how do I put 2 kids to bed by myself. And, it was kind of interesting to watch him sort of figure out where his place is and what he should be doing. But yeah, it's a huge difference to be together. And I'll never take for granted being together with my whole family ever again, I think, after this.
So to switch gears a bit now to the moms at work, being in the position that you're in, how do you figure out how to even set up those routines and work from home? I mean, I'm on video conference calls, and the way that I've rigged my desk life, work life situation all around the house, and the internet connection, and when the kids are least likely to run in screaming, when my husband's not in the background because he just took a shower, there's so many logistical things to work through on top of just how do you get your employees also to stay on top of their workload and to still be productive? Any advice?
Yeah. So it's definitely a work in progress. And my biggest piece of advice is easy on yourself because nobody knows what they're doing here. Everyone is figuring it out, and it's not going to be perfect. People are going to make mistakes. I think my team is unusual because we have a disproportionate number of moms with young children, as you would want at a parenting magazine. We always say it's a magazine made for moms and dads by moms and dads. So we're all in this crazy circumstance. And so I've sort of tried to, first of all, say to my team members, that our mental health comes first. Please raise your hand if you're getting overwhelmed. One thing I'm actively doing as a manager is pulling out layers of the process of everything we do. So really looking at what actually has to happen and what maybe doesn't need to happen right now, and how do we all prioritize what we need to do. And really just take, as a manager, I'm really trying to assume everyone is already working as hard as they can, and a judgment-free zone. I mean, our magazine is a judgment-free zone because the last thing parents need is to feel judged. But right now, nobody wants to feel like their judge is, that they're bossing at their work and being critical. So it's sort of, trying to encourage everybody, I think is important. But for me, in terms of distance learning and work, I basically, because I'm the boss, which helps, I was able to sort of try to move a lot of my meetings afternoon and do the schoolwork in the morning. My kids are a little fresher in the morning. They're used to doing schoolwork in the morning. And so I'll try to, book all my calls for the afternoon, and then I'll actually on my work calendar block out the time that I'm going to be with the kids. And I think that's a really good tip so that people don't, if you're in the kind of desk job where that's, where there's a lot of work calls, to schedule in your personal stuff so that suddenly you don't have, when you're supposed to be on your kids' class Zoom, you're not also supposed to be on a WebEx with your boss, whoever that is. So that helps. True. And then I think, it's really tricky, and using screen time. So I sort of reserve the movies, and I'm really grateful we have cable, honestly, because then the kids don't have to stream something if I need to be on Zoom or whatever it is for work. So or even a DVD. We've actually been doing that to preserve Wi-Fi access in the house. I'm staying with extended families. There's 3, now my husband's here, so there's 4 working parents and my dad here. So there's a lot, and then 3 kids who are on school Zooms, and my little one who has a few of them in nursery school. So there's just maximum Wi-Fi usage happening. And so we're all often on a group texting, can you turn off Wi-Fi? I need some now, can somebody go offline? That kind of communication is really key to getting it done. And then I think also just trying to use short bursts of attention, both for your work and for your kids. So your kids can't really focus on their schoolwork that long anyway. So
that's true.
say I'm going to sit with you for a half hour, and we're going to do your schoolwork, and then you go play, and then I'm going to do my work for a half hour, and see what you can get done. I also think it helps to do the hardest thing first for both the kids and you. So my kindergartner, like, he struggles with writing. I try to do that first, and I try to do whatever, like, the thing I'm dreading at work is first, so that because that's when I have, like, the most energy for whenever I start my work.
That's really smart. Do you do fitness, and do your kids do any kind of fitness?
It's funny, I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday because it's so important, and we have been doing a lot of those Go Noodle videos, which I don't know if you've tried them. It's this YouTube channel, and they have these, like, really fun little workouts for kids they don't feel like a workout. It's like a dance, and my kid had been doing them in school. I didn't know about them, and they're so fun and game-changing. So on rainy days, we've been doing that. And then we do have access to the backyard. So we've been doing soccer. I'm playing in the backyard. And then I feel like it is so important, but I've totally been myself. But what I do is just try to go get my heart rate up just to relieve stress. So I'll, like, go outside and just run until I can, like, really feel my chest pumping. Right now, the cardio benefits, but I'm at least, like, getting a little bit of that stress relief. So it's really about lowering your standards for everything, and that getting active for a little while, I think can be good enough.
Yeah, I love that. I love all these tips.
Yeah, and our company has also been doing, meditations for the company.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's kind of, another tip really is to reach out to the other moms in your situation, whether you work with them or not, and find out what's working for them. That's really has helped me a lot in figuring out how to make this work, is just talking to other working moms, and everyone's own.
Are you there? I think the connection just got a little.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I love all of that. So my takeaway here is to get all of the more difficult stuff that takes more from your brain and your thinking, tackle that in the morning, and prioritize the kids if they have to do their Zoom calling, prioritize that in the morning. So then the internet is freed up for you in the afternoon. And I like the sort of like bulk, like, okay, I got a half an hour, you get a half an hour, I get a half an hour, you get a half an hour. So when you have to do a little bit more of that flexible, and it isn't so scheduled, like for this 3-hour period, this is happening, and this 3-hour period, this is happening. I like that give and take. And I think the last piece that I really appreciate is over communicating with other folks in your situation that you work with, and also probably sharing stories and tips on what's working and what hasn't. I love all of this. No one's actually contextualized it quite like this for me. I mean, every day I'm starting over again. No, but my older girls, they're good. Everyone's good, but for me, I find that I have a hard time just getting into a routine and actually sticking to it. So I love all of these tips. I think they're incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And then just getting that heart rate up. I agree. I feel like my stress level is completely different when I do get that heart rate up and I do something.
Yeah, it's really just about doing something. And, it can be like playing red light, green light with the kids, or doing a dance party. I think like I keep seeing these, like cartoons about people are like, oh, I thought I was going to write my novel or whatever. Like that stuff's not going to happen. And maybe it will for some very special people. But I think for most of us, it's really about, maybe you're not making the gourmet meal, but you're just you're making something homemade that's healthy and that, that you can feel good about. Like it's just sort of lowering your expectations to something sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
My husband
another thing we did is we actually bought a giant whiteboard. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, keep
Sorry, what
going.
were you saying?
I was just saying that my
Oh,
husband
I
is
was saying we bought a giant whiteboard.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, the sound is so delayed.
You go,
Okay, you go.
I'm gonna let it go.
And we write the schedule every night for everybody Zooms and calls and
That's smart.
like you're saying, it's because no day is the same. Like every day has different work obligations. Every day the kids have different assignments, even though at the same time time just feels like a blur. But writing it all down, looking at it and being like, which adult is going to be kids at which time, and then actually schedule. And then when you realize there's a time that no adult can be on them, then like agreeing that it's the movie time, that really helps. Like you really need to write down the plan. Versus just sort of putting on the movie like when you feel like it and then realizing like you really could use them, but your kids already watched one.
Right.
It's sort of, that's been changing here.
Oh, it's so efficient. I love all of this. I love all these tips. I was just going to say that my husband's turned cleaning into a game and times the kids. And so they have to set the table in under 5 minutes, including kids and silverware. And then the cleanup is 10 minutes or less, including loading the dishwasher. And so that's been fun. Because before it was just an argument for
cute.
about
We've been doing.
Now it's a game.
Yeah, that's adorable. Kind family, and my 5-year-old went looking for the pennies while he cleaned, and then at the end he got to keep them all. Although he was disappointed it was pennies and not quarters. Throw in a couple bigger coins.
Hey, at least he knows the value of money.
Yeah, he's negotiating a lot. There have been a few different bribery scenarios right now, but I actually think rewards really help. So if you can incorporate them, it does motivate the kid.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for joining us and giving us all of these amazing tips. Everyone go to, and you guys have, obviously your digital parents magazine, and everyone can go over there, get some content. You are sharing a lot of your tips and tricks there as well, I believe. And thank you for just sharing your story and letting us know. I'm going to apply so many of these to my life, and I hope to be half as efficient as you by tomorrow. So thank you so much.
Well, it's a work in progress.
And I really appreciate you coming on, Julia. And it starts with Mom Live. And I will talk to you later. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
everyone, my name is Kelly LeVeque. I'm a holistic nutritionist and author based here in Los Angeles, California. And today I'm going to go through 2 recipes for prenatal and postnatal health. Whenever I'm coaching clients who are on their pregnancy journey or have just had a child, I'm always talking to them about the nutrients that they need most, not only for growing a baby inside of them, but for breastfeeding as well. And when we look at those nutrients include things like omega-3, that's going to be from wild salmon and fish, B12, a great source of B12 is salmon as well, or proteins. It's going to be choline. Choline is in eggs. So then there's also folate. Folate is so important, and the best way to remember what folate is in foliage. It's in leafy greens. So we're going to go through a couple of recipes starting with breakfast. So I'm going to teach you how to make my favorite prenatal, postnatal, Fab4 smoothie that's chock full of everything you need during this time period. So first and foremost, we're going to start our smoothie with a little liquid. So this is unsweetened almond milk. And almond milk is a great source of vitamin E, which is a nutrient that you'll find in your prenatals and something that you need for growing a baby. So vitamin E is in almonds, it's in avocados, and so actually the fat that we're adding to today's smoothie is almond butter. So it's 1 cup of unsweetened almond milk, a tablespoon of almond butter. So you always want to remember to add healthy fat to your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the reason for that is that it increases the bioavailability of your nutrients. So if you've ever heard of fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D, E, A, and K, these are all really important for growing a child, and our body's ability to absorb them depend on if we're eating fat or not. So it's really, really important to have a little bit of healthy fat on your salads, add avocado to things, and make sure your smoothie has a little bit of fat too. So we're adding vitamin E rich almond butter to smoothie, and that fat's going to help us absorb the other nutrients we need during pregnancy, which include vitamin D and vitamin K too. So we have our healthy fat. Now it's time to add a little bit of protein. So today I'm adding collagen protein. Collagen makes up our skin, our joints, our tendons, our bones. You just want to think about how you can add protein. Protein is a really satisfying macronutrient and something that can help support blood sugar balance. And if your blood sugar is erratic, you may feel increased morning sickness and illness. So you always want to make sure you have protein. If you weren't going to have a smoothie for breakfast, another great option would be a veggie scramble. Eggs are loaded with choline. You could add some spinach to that for some foliage, some folate, and a little avocado on the side for some vitamin E and that healthy fat. So there are definitely ways to get your protein in. If you wanted to make a smoothie but you didn't want to add collagen, you could add Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is a great source of B12. It's also a great source of calcium and protein. So just think of a way to add a healthy protein to your smoothie and you'll be good to go. So we have vanilla protein, then we have a healthy fat of almond butter. Now we want to add a little fiber. So Fab4 is protein, fat, fiber, and greens. So I'm adding 2 tablespoons of flax meal. Flax is a vegetarian source of short-chain omega-3s, so our body has the ability to convert a certain percentage of those omega-3s into the long-chain anti-inflammatory omega-3s we need in our body for pregnancy and just to support an anti-inflammatory body. So add a little bit of fiber. Fiber is going to help support your blood sugar balance, going to slow the digestion of the meal. It's going to make the smoothie last a few extra hours. Without fiber and loaded produce like leafy greens and berries, we get through this pretty quickly. In an hour or two, you'd feel hungry again. So it's really important to satisfy yourself and really make your food work for you. So we have our protein, our fat, and our fiber. Now we need the foliage, leafy greens. I have a handful of kale. You can add kale, you can add spinach. If you're not feeling like really bitter leafy greens, you could always do a strawberry basil smoothie. There are definitely ways to get it in. So a handful of leafy greens, and then I'm adding some blackberries to this smoothie. Vitamin C is so important for synthesizing new collagen internally. So it's a cofactor in creating new collagen. So not only do you want those amino acids, you also want vitamin C to make it happen. So I'm adding a half a cup of blackberries to this recipe. So it's a vanilla almond butter blackberry smoothie. You can mix up the berries, you can mix up the greens, you can pick a different protein based on your lifestyle. If you're plant-based and you'd like to go for something that is like a pea protein, that's a great option as well. Yeah, but you just blend it up and we're good to go.
Here we go.
Okay, I'm ready. Is it?
Here we go.
It says I'm pregnant.
Clear Blue digital pregnancy test with Smart Countdown gives unmistakably clear results written in words. 99% accurate, absolute clarity when you need it most.
Hi everyone, my name is Latham Thomas and welcome to It Starts with Moms Live with March of Dimes. Today we're going to have an incredible panel called My Plan in Place. And this is an opportunity for us to really explore our pathway to motherhood. If you've been thinking about getting pregnant, if you're currently on your pregnancy journey, if you're just taking this wild ride through the pandemic and trying to figure out what your options might be, this is a great opportunity for you to learn more from some of our incredible experts about how that journey might be for you, and answer some questions that you may be having, and really get to figure out a pathway for your journey that makes sense for you, something that you can talk about with your own doctor, something that you maybe get support from your friends with. And I'm super excited to be joined by incredible panelists today. Dr. Torie Comeaux Plowden is a board certified obstetrics and gynecologist at the Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility Center. She has clinical interest in healthcare disparities, fibroids, and sexual health, and is also active in clinical epidemiologic research. She's an incredible specialist that we're excited to have here on this call today. We're also joined by the Hello Fashion blog founder, Christine Andrew. So I'm excited to welcome Christine as well. So just look forward to this great conversation that we're going to have, and feel free to make sure to ask questions socially. Share this information far and wide so it can reach more other people who may need the support. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So glad to have you. Thank you for chiming in.
We're super excited to be here and talk with you today.
So I want to just start off by getting a framework from Dr. Torie first. You know, this is a challenging time for people. A lot of people have had their fertility treatments be interrupted. Folks are trying to figure out what a pathway to fertility might even look like right now. Can you talk to us about the most effective forms of fertility treatment?
Sure. So there are many different types of fertility treatment. And part of the first thing that we need to do whenever a patient is experiencing infertility is try to figure out what the cause of that infertility is. Most people have heard of in vitro fertilization, and certainly IVF is typically the thing that will give a patient or a couple the highest likelihood of pregnancy in the shortest amount of time. But it is also the thing that is the most costly and the thing that is the most invasive. So most people, depending on the cause of infertility, don't have to go straight to IVF. And I think that's important to know. There often can be other treatment options. For instance, if a woman is not ovulating, frequently giving her oral medications that can cause ovulation to happen and then having timed intercourse can be an effective way for that couple to get pregnant. Mm-hmm. So IVF is the most effective, but it certainly isn't the only option for most couples.
Wonderful. And what does it look like sort of in the landscape of COVID-19?
So right now, the ASRM, which is the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, and it's kind of like our governing body of infertility specialists, we're not recommending that we start lots of new cycles during COVID. So there has been a recommendation for pausing treatment right now. In March, most couples who were in the process of undergoing in vitro fertilization continued through that process and went to egg retrieval. The recommendations were advising not doing any fresh embryo transfers or doing any frozen embryo transfers during this time period. But certainly for patients who have fertility preservation issues, such as they are a person who's experiencing cancer, we certainly would move forward with that treatment because of the very time-sensitive nature related to that. We're currently trying to figure out the best way to reopen our facilities safely so that we can continue to provide good care for patients, but also keeping our patients and our staff safe.
Right, that makes sense. Safety is so important right now. Christine, I want to ask you a little bit about your experience because I know your pathway to motherhood has been very interesting, and I'm sure so many people can relate to having a challenge and get pregnant. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that journey was like for you?
Yeah, so my personal experience, I feel like I have I have 4 kids, 2 are my stepkids. I had a baby that the first round went so fast, we got pregnant quick. And then my last one with Ollie, it took us about a little under a year and a half to get pregnant. And I think it was just such a surprise because I wasn't expecting to have challenges. And then once we started doing fertility, realizing that I wasn't ovulating, it's exactly like she was saying, Dr. Torie, that we started doing other options. And so we started with the oral medication. That helped a little bit, but it wasn't doing enough. And so we tried the timed intercourse, and then we did 3 rounds of IUIs, and on the final round, I got pregnant. But I think the biggest emotional thing for me was, after I wasn't getting pregnant and we started meeting with a fertility doctor, I was like, okay, it's going to solve. I'm going to be so happy and excited. And then when I wasn't getting pregnant, it was such an emotional hit on myself, like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I failing at this? What's wrong with my body? But, it was each time, my cycle would come and I would have my period, I'd be like, that day, it was always just such an emotional day. And I feel like I wasn't prepared for that. And so I was able to share my story on my blog and my Instagram and connect with so many women around the world who were going through the same thing. And that was so comforting. And I think that's one thing that we sometimes bottle all of our emotions up and we're scared to talk about it. But once you're able to, talk your feelings out, whether someone's been through it or maybe it's your spouse, a parent, like your own parent or your best friend, just talking about those feelings and letting them out instead of bottling them all up inside of you, it's such a release. And sometimes, you're going to have really hard days. But one thing I can say, and I mean, I know everyone's journey is so different, but I look back, and if I would have gotten pregnant at the time I wanted to, we had so much going on in our life. It wasn't the best time. And when I ended up getting pregnant, like, things were it was just a better time. And so I think realizing that we can't always, whether you're religious, it's God's plan or what you believe. But I think timing, when things are meant to be, they will happen. And just, talking about your journey and not holding it inside so that you can connect with people going through it.
That's so powerful, right? I think connection and community is so important. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd like to add one thing to what you said that I thought was really important. A couple of weeks ago, it was National Infertility Awareness Week. And some of the graphics that we were putting online showed that 1 in 8 women or 1 in 8 couples experience infertility. And what I shared with some of my followers is that most likely that means that someone you know, like a close friend or a relative, even if they haven't shared that information with you, most likely you know someone who has been impacted by infertility. It's very, very common. And you're right, it is a very emotionally draining time to go through.
Yeah. And what you guys do, I think, is so amazing. I mean, we became so close with the doctors, and they really become like family. I mean, I cried when I found out I was pregnant, and like I took pictures with the nurses. I mean, what you guys do to help people is you change people's lives. I'm like getting emotional thinking about, you know, what you guys do. So it's amazing.
Great. That's great.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I think that one of the things that's so important also as we think about this landscape right now, and Christine, as you talked about just the challenge of isolation, of, you know, the not knowing, probably also a lack of community. And you created community through your social media, through your blog, which drew you together with other people who are going through this experience. And that's something that I think is also important right now. As we look at the landscape with COVID-19 and we look at what pregnant people are on a journey for during this process, and also folks who are on their fertility journeys, community is so important. Educational tools are really important. We're right now in the midst of Mental Health Awareness Month, but obviously Maternal Mental Health Week. And during this week, if we think about, you know, the struggles that someone during, you know, the fertility period is undergoing, we really have to think about what emotional angst people are going through and what that does psychologically, especially during a time like this. And so having critical supports, right? Having self-care practices, having a nice licensed mental health provider that you can check in with. Not every single doctor is like Dr. Torie, who is going to like squeeze you up and love you during the time in the same way, right? And so we have to have access to, you know, other providers who are trained to be able to provide that skill set for us and help us get through, especially in a time like COVID-19. And I would suggest also that doula support is so helpful. You know, in our work at Mama Glow with the doula community, you know, because we can't do the high touch experience that we would bring into the hospitals, a lot of that's moving into home birth spaces or in the birth centers. But we can still provide virtual support. Just like people are tuned in today, you can tune in with care providers like this as well to get that kind of support that you need. And I think that people will be surprised that there is so much joy, also so much connectivity when you build that relationship and that rapport with your providers. So I would also suggest that even in this time, if you can't do your treatments like you're used to, trying to get an appointment and doing like a virtual consult with Dr. Torie just to understand the landscape that you're going to enter into would be so helpful. You know, maybe even being able to, you know, talk to a birth or postpartum doula about like how to support you through the journey, make sure you have the tools to advocate for yourself in your birth process. I think that's also so helpful, especially in this time of COVID-19. I'd love to talk to Dr. Torie again about some of the issues around fertility and how it affects women of color. You know, we've seen so much information, obviously, about the numbers and the disparities. So it would be great for you to kind of break that down for us.
So reproductive healthcare disparities exist across the landscape, from whether we're talking about issues with maternal mortality, which have recently gained a lot of visibility, importantly. But there are also differences in the experience of women of color who have undergone, who are currently in the process of trying to get pregnant without success. We do know that women of color who have infertility often have infertility for a much longer time period before seeking help than their Caucasian counterparts. And I think there can be many factors related to that. Part of it is that some women of color are not aware that infertility can affect our communities. Certainly, women of color can have difficulty getting pregnant, and sometimes it can be a taboo subject that is not talked about often, and so it really can feel for them like they are the only one. But there have also been some studies that have shown that implicit bias plays a role, because there have been some studies that have indicated that women of color are less likely to be referred for infertility evaluation. And so, that speaks to the fact that we have a lot of training to do within our own community of physicians so that they can advocate for their patients and refer their patients appropriately, whether the patients be Caucasian or African American or any other race or ethnicity. But yes, women of color often seek help after a prolonged period of infertility. That can impact their success rates, certainly, because we know that age impacts our fertility. And one of the biggest predictors of if a woman will be successful with becoming pregnant is how old she is. And so you can imagine that if a woman had infertility, but did not seek care or did not know that she should seek care, and then another 4 or 5 years go by, she's aging during that entire time, of course, and so that could decrease her likelihood of success. And let me stop for a second and give a quick definition of infertility and what we're actually talking about here. So we typically define it as a couple having unprotected intercourse for 12 months without conception. Mm-hmm. That specific definition is for women who are 34 years old or less. If the woman is 35 or older, we typically will seek evaluation for infertility if they have been trying to get pregnant for 6 months or more without any success. I think it's also important to note that some of the things that impact fertility vary in different communities. Women of color are more likely to experience issues with fibroids. And sometimes that can lead to difficulties becoming pregnant. Certainly having fibroids in and of itself does not absolutely mean that you will have difficulties becoming pregnant. But sometimes fibroids, depending on the location that they are in and depending on some of the morbidities associated with it, can impact infertility. And those women of color are at a higher likelihood of having fibroids.
Yeah, thank you for that. And also thank you for spotlighting the parallels with the Black maternal health crisis, because we are also coming off of Black Maternal Health Week just a few weeks ago. Everything's in this period, all of the weeks lined up, right? And it is so critically important that we understand that there are differences in how folks are experiencing this time in their lives, and the obstacles and sort of the gaps that we have, right, and that we're up against. And it just really, I think, underscores the need for a patient advocacy safety net. It underscores the need for really incredible providers and access to quality care, but also that people have resources, right? And so I want to kind of talk a little bit about the resources, because when we talk about parenthood, there's so many pathways to parenthood. And, a lot of people may come up with the challenge of getting pregnant and what that means for them. And so can you talk, Dr. Torie, about just some of the different pathways to parenthood and things that people can discuss as options with their care provider?
So family building can be accomplished in myriad ways. And I think that is important for people to be aware of. Certainly, having a pregnancy and carrying that pregnancy yourself may be the desire of some folks, but adoption is also a very viable option that many people pursue in order to build their families. Sometimes becoming pregnant, we kind of talked a little bit about some of the treatment options, anything from ovulation induction to inseminations to all the way to in vitro fertilization. Sometimes ladies who are in the later reproductive years may be less successful with those options, and they may consider using donor egg in order to become pregnant, or even using donor embryos. Just as we can adopt a child, there are some programs out there that allow the adoption of embryos that have been created, except the family that those embryos initially belonged to has completed childbearing and has the family size that they desired. And so sometimes those programs will have donor embryos available, and that can be an option to building families.
Beautiful. Christine, I'd love for you to share with us some of the things that were helpful along your journey to growing your family. And I think it's so beautiful that you talk about, having a blended family. Can you talk to us a little bit about what was really helpful for you on the journey?
You know, I guess I want to say one of two things. I feel so happy to have my two stepkids. They feel like my own babies. I love them so much. They also have an amazing mom. But I think too, one thing is that I heard that people said to me was, "You already have kids. Why are you upset that you can't have another one? You already have a family." And I think that was one thing that was hard. I think whatever family you want, you should always embrace your own feelings and what you want. And then if your journey shifts to adopting, to so many, other options that there are, then you take that, you follow what your heart and your family wants to do. And, I'm really thankful that we have so many options in the country that we live in, and to be able to, create families.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. This has been a really wonderful discussion with you all, and I wish we had more time. I want to just sort of underscore that whether you're pregnant or currently trying to become pregnant, that the March of Dimes is here to support you along your journey. At every stage, there are resources for you. This journey is obviously different for every woman, and you should feel inspired to educate yourself, to move away from fear and become prepared. And no matter what's happening in the world, whether it's a pandemic, whatever is happening, this is a time for us to be proactive in our wellness, find tools for self-care, and to learn how to advocate for our own healthcare journey so that we can make this sustainable for ourselves and our families. So I'm just so excited that we got to have this chat. I thank you all so much for today. And thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Here we go.
Okay, I'm ready. Is it?
Here we go.
It says I'm pregnant. Clear Blue digital pregnancy test with Smart Countdown gives unmistakably clear results written in words. 99% accurate, absolute clarity when you need it most.
My mom is incredible because as a nurse, she's one of the smartest people I know. But as a mom, she's one of the funniest and most selfless.
I appreciate how much she was able to live her life as an example to her daughters.
A big thank you to my mom for all she did raising 4 teenagers.
So what makes my mom so incredible is her tenacity and her fearlessness.
Now that she's older, she lives with me, and it is my privilege to take care of her in the same way that she took care of all of us.
The best advice she's ever given me is to not take things personally and to only remember the good things that people say about you and never remember the negative things, because that's what holds you back.
Her insatiable love of learning and of giving back.
You're doing the most important thing, which is loving your kids each and every day, and that's what matters at the end of the day. So thank you, Mom, for the great advice, and thank you to all those other superhero moms out there.
Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Stacey Stewart, President and CEO of the March of Dimes. We want to thank everyone for joining us today for It Starts With Mom Live. Huge thanks to our partners, The Honest Company, Clear Blue, INFA, and Ovia Health. Also, a very special thanks to Jessica Alba for hosting today's event. We sincerely hope you've enjoyed today's discussions and hearing from other expecting, new, and seasoned moms during our sessions. We hope you'll feel empowered and we hope you'll feel inspired to navigate now through your pregnancy and also parenthood, healthy and strong. And I hope you'll stay in touch with us at the March of Dimes. I hope you'll continue to follow us on social media, tune in for our weekly Facebook Live sessions, access our resources online, and share your story with us. Our team is so busy right now, virtualizing all of our care and support programs for families, including those for parents in the NICU. And as I said earlier, we really know this current situation with COVID-19 has been very unsettling and very challenging for everyone, but especially for pregnant women and moms with new babies and toddlers. And as we continue to fight this public health crisis together, we want you to know that our mission at the March of Dimes is to continue fighting for healthy moms and strong babies. We're here to serve as a reliable resource and support system for moms and babies, not only during COVID-19, but all the time. For over 80 years, March of Dimes has pioneered research, led programs, provided educational resources, and championed policy changes so that every mom and baby can have the best possible start. We're here for you, to encourage you, to support you, and to empower you. You are strong, and together we will get through these challenging times. So as we close out today's conference, we hope you'll continue to rely on the March of Dimes for up-to-date information and support from our health team in both English and Spanish. You can find maternal health resources at itstartswithmom.org and keep following us for the latest news about March of Dimes and our programs and events. From all of us here at the March of Dimes, thank you for joining this session of It Starts With Mom Live. We're so grateful you joined us, and we'll see you next time.